and welcome back to my channel, and today I thought I'd do a bit of a different video with you guys. I wanted to get into more sort of interesting, weird, shocking stories. Today I'm going to talk about a bridge in Scotland that a lot of you may actually be quite aware of. This bridge is called the Overtoun Bridge and it's near a castle structure and some gardens, and it has become infamous in the last century, probably mainly since the 1950s, and the reason is quite an odd one. So the bridge in question is near Dunbarton in West Dunbartonshire in Scotland, and as I said already, it's called the Overtoun Bridge. This one was actually designed by a gentleman called H.E. Milner, and what's unusual about this bridge is that since the 1950s this has become a specific place where dogs have chosen to leap off the bridge to, in a lot of cases, unfortunately, their deaths. It's actually been even nicknamed Dog Suicide Bridge. Now there are a lot of explanations that have been given for this, some have been discounted. There is sort of a widely accepted opinion about this, but what I found really interesting when researching this, I didn't know about the Dog Suicide Bridge, was that there is a lot more history to the bridge and there is actually tragedy linked to the bridge. What sort of attracted me to this story is that in local Celtic myth this area is actually known to be the thin place, which is said to be an area where the link between the material and the rather otherworldly place is at its thinnest. So given what's happened on the bridge, which I will go into, and some of the rather horrible history of something that happened in the bridge also added with this, it did intrigue me, so I thought I'd share the story with you guys to see what you think. So I have read a few individual accounts from people that have been walking their dogs over the bridge. One such incident is 2004. We have a gentleman called Kenneth Meikle walking his golden retriever dog across the bridge. He said that they all of a sudden became really bold to attention, absolutely desperate to get to this specific part of the bridge, ran to this specific part of the bridge and just jumped right over the side of the bridge. This dog this wasn't generally in this dog's nature, it wasn't normal for this, was a very well behaved, very disciplined golden retriever, very gentle dog, and they just went off on one. They just ran and jumped over the side of the bridge. What is very unusual is that dogs all choose to jump over the same section of the bridge, the same side of the bridge, and to me some of the reasons given for why they do this, I'm not understanding why they're not jumping off the opposite side or jumping off a bit further down or a bit further back, but only between these two specific parapets is where these dogs are jumping over the side of the bridge. So there's thought to have been about 600 dogs that have actually done this. Unfortunately, 50 of those dogs have actually died. The others have thankfully survived, but what's even more unusual is that of these dogs that jump off the bridge and survive, a lot of them come back and jump off the same section of the bridge again, and in some cases immediately after jumping the first time. And it's just mind-boggling. So I've written a few facts here. I'm just going to read them off here. I don't want to be, getting them wrong, so I'll read them what I've written here. So we had the example of Kenneth in 2004. It said here in 2005, at least 5 dogs jumped off this bridge in 6 months, which is obviously a lot. In 2014, we have a lady called Alice Trevorrow who was walking her Springer Spaniel Cassie. And she's quoted, and I will quote her. She said, "She is so obedient. I didn't put her lead on, she never did. Me and my son walked towards Cassie, who was staring at something over the bridge. She saw something that made her jump. There's something sinister going on. It's so out of her character." And she's quoted as saying that, and that she felt things were a bit odd and that the dog was acting extremely strangely. It has been said by some people there is a bit of an ominous air on the bridge, especially at night time, but there is a very normal, very standard reason given for why the dogs do this. So one of the explanations given, we go to a canine psychologist by the name of David Sands.
The question is, why this bridge? Why Overtoun Bridge over all the other bridges that are here in this country?
And in 2014 he said that it's to do with the dog's vision, and there is a particularly steep part of the bridge that's covered in quite dense foliage, and maybe to the dogs it gives the appearance of even ground and they don't actually even realise that they're going off the side of a bridge. It has been said that underneath the bridge there's this strong scent of male mink. It has also been said squirrels and mice nest under the bridge, and that's what attracts the dogs. Now, I have actually went through an awful lot of areas where the general public can comment, because that's what I wanted to see. Comments by people that live in the area, Scottish people, people that know the area, and an awful lot of them said that that specific area at that time of year is too cold for mink, squirrel and mice to actually be settling there. One person in particular, her father is a hunter, does hunt small rodents and things like this, and said that that area does not have those type of animals at the specific times of years that this is happening all year round, and he said that wouldn't tie together. Another one I've read, it just said here, there was a local hunter and resident of 50 years of that area that said there weren't any mink in this specific area. So you have experts saying it's the smell of mink, you have locals saying that's experienced in the area, and also our hunters say we don't have mink in this area. Also, something that's quite strange is that it tends to mostly be long-snouted breeds of dogs rather than short-snouted, so golden retrievers, spaniels, collies, anything with a long snout. I had also read with context to this, and I thought it was relevant. An expert actually said dogs with long snouts have more horizontally oblong field of visions and they're far-sighted, so they can see far away. And obviously on the opposite side, dogs with shorter snouts, it says, have a circular field of vision and are nearsighted, so they see better close up. And it's mostly happening on clear days, so it is fair to assume that dogs with long snouts can see further on clear days. So we have there aren't any mink in the area versus it's definitely the scent of mink. We have the dogs can't really see the area. But then why is a dog that's just gone and jumped over there, gone straight back up and done it again, when the first time obviously they've fallen? I'm not entirely sure. So just obviously to add some more evidence, the RSPB did an investigation into this also, and they say that they found the end favoured by dogs contained nests of mice and squirrel. This was contested by locals who said it was too cold all year round for this to be the case. So we really have two very different opinions. Now, the dog thing's interesting. I am a big lover of dogs, and the story itself about dogs doing this really saddened me and really affected me, which is what made me look into it. But when I looked into it, I do tend to be sort of the opinion that it probably is a mixture of scent mixed with the dogs not actually realising that it's a drop. They think they're just running. It is a bit odd that dogs that previously don't act this way all of a sudden act. Maybe it's like catnip to a cat, I'm not entirely sure. But what really intrigued me then was the history of something that has happened to a person, a human, on this bridge. So before I actually tell you the story, also to say that in 2019 the owners of the house were actually interviewed, Bob and Melissa Hill. He is originally from Texas. He was a preacher in Texas. They moved over, and he said he has witnessed firsthand a lot of dogs become very, very agitated on the bridge, and he has with his own eyes seen dogs jump over the bridge. He is of the belief that it is down to the scent of something or other, but he also has stated that the house itself and the grounds and the surrounding area are definitely haunted. He has felt and experienced this himself. And a local teacher who is quite into the paranormal and that sort of thing, he has said that dogs do pick up things very similarly to children. They do pick up things that us as adults don't quite pick up. And he very much is aware that the local area is renowned as being haunted, so he thinks that the dogs are picking up on something rather sinister on the bridge. So this brings me on to the very, very sad story of Kevin Moy. There's nothing to hypothesize about here. This is facts. This actually happened on the bridge, on the point where these dogs are actually throwing themselves off. And I just think it's incredibly creepy to think that we have dogs doing something inexplicable in this area that's completely out of character, and then we also have this story as well. So Kevin worked as a lab technician and he contracted the disease ME, which obviously quite resonates with me as I suffer from ME myself. Due to the debilitating nature of the disease, he did go on to actually suffer from quite serious depression. He was married to a lady called Eileen and she became pregnant. They were very excited, very happy at the prospect of being parents. So Eileen went on to give birth to a lovely little boy called Owen. Everything went straightforwardly, went well. At this stage, Kevin's depression was still very severe and he was staying with his parents at the time. Obviously he was still with Eileen, still very happily married, just struggling a bit with the depression. And on the day in question, he actually goes with Eileen and his new son, Owen, who is 2 weeks old at this stage, for their first proper family outing together. They go for a walk near Overtoun Bridge. So it's October 1994. Kevin is 32 at this stage. He is actually a paranoid schizophrenic. I don't know if that was diagnosed at the time before what happened or whether this was diagnosed later, but he's out with Eileen and baby Owen and they're walking over Overtoun Bridge. At one point while they're stood on the bridge, Kevin does the unthinkable and actually throws his baby, drops his baby off the edge of Overtoun Bridge to the ground below. His son was 2 weeks. Bystanders scrambled to try to get to Owen to rescue him, and unfortunately Owen was fatally injured. He wasn't dead at the time, but he died in hospital soon after. Kevin was just beside himself. He was actually taken immediately to Overtoun House, where the first thing that he actually did when he got there was grabbed a kitchen knife and tried to take his own life. He tried to slit his wrists. Then the police came and he was immediately arrested before he could do any harm to himself. When interviewed, Kevin went on to say that he believed that his son Owen was the devil and that he himself, Kevin, was the Antichrist and that they were just going to cause devastation upon the world. He said he was sure that the devil had put a birthmark upon his son's head and that they together were responsible for the Gulf War, which obviously was raging at the time. He also feared, and this one is quite creepy, back in 1994, he feared that him and his son would be responsible for unleashing a deadly virus upon the world that would wipe out a lot of mankind. He told police that the only way that he felt that he could save the world was by killing his son and then by taking his own life. So when Kevin went to trial for what happened, the jury did accept evidence given by 4 different psychiatrists that concluded that Kevin was indeed insane at the time of what happened. He was ordered to be detained indefinitely at the state hospital in Carstairs. I'm sure you'll agree that the story of Kevin and his son Owen is a really desperately sad one, obviously linked to mental illness and untreated mental illness. I'm not trying to say that the bridge made him do it. I just found this story upon researching about the dogs and the bridge. I found this story that seems to be lesser known than the Overtoun Bridge being known as the dog's suicide bridge. I'll just end the video with, because we started with the dogs, let's end with the dogs. So I've written down some reasons that I found from different areas for perhaps what makes the dogs do what they do. One of the explanations given is there is a sound caused by the acoustics in the area that is only audible by canines, that maybe perhaps, you know, when you get a sound that's so piercing and so loud it just almost drives you insane. Some people are saying that this is perhaps the reason, but then my question would be, why does this not happen to all dogs? Why just specific dogs, just some of them? Because some dogs walk very happily past this area and have no interest in it whatsoever. So that sort of the sound thing, not too sure. People that do believe this cite a nearby telephone pylon as possibly the source of the noise, or maybe even down to bridge construction. But as I say, I don't know why this would affect some dogs and not others, and why more particularly long-snouted dogs and not short. That wouldn't really explain sound, it would more go along the lines of scent. Finally, something I read is a lot of local people remain unconvinced that there is a very logical explanation for this. They don't understand why it's always between these specific 2 parapets, why dogs that jump and in some cases badly injure themselves will go back at a later date and do it again, why some dogs that jump and don't badly injure themselves will go straight back up and do it immediately. And if the smell of animals is carrying them off the side of the bridge, why not the other side? Why not further up the bridge? Why not further down the bridge? Why these specific 2 parapets? What is it about that section of bridge? So that is the story, the very sad story of Overtoun Bridge, and the hypothesis about dog suicide bridge, I suppose. Let me know below in the comments what you think. Obviously, if you're local to the area, write down in the comments what you think. And I think from what I've read in other people's videos that have covered this, it very much seems to be, people say it's just the smell of the animals and that's why the dogs are going off the bridge. But if you believe that, then why just this section of bridge? Why not the other side, and why not further back and further up? Why just this specific between these two parapets? That really interests me. So if you have more knowledge on that, I'd be really interested to know. And yeah, it led me to the story, the horrible story of poor Kevin and his son Owen, and one that I thought I'd share with you. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I'll be back to do another sort of odd story or true crime video soon. I need to get more of these done, I do realise, but thank you guys for your patience. Thank you for watching, and it's over and out from Lisa Loves.